Welcome back to Learn SKN, and today we're going to do an economics video, a CSEC economics video, and we are going to be looking at section 3 of the syllabus. Section 3, which deals with demand and supply, or another word for them would be the market forces. So supply and demand are the market forces, and that's what we're going to look at in this video. So to start things off, we are looking at objective number 1 from the syllabus, and so it says to explain the term market. And I covered this concept in a POB video before, but I'll just run through it quickly again. So what is a market? So a market, let's get what it is not first. A market is not just a physical place. It is not just a physical place. So if somebody asks you what is a market, what the term market means, do not say a place where you go and buy goods or anything like that. That is not the definition for a market. A market can be defined as any situation that brings a buyer and a seller into contact to conduct business. It doesn't have to be physical contact. I mean, you can conduct business on the internet, e-commerce. You can do it over the phone and those kind of things. So it doesn't have to be a physical place. So a market is a situation where buyers and sellers communicate for the purpose of exchanging goods and services. Or another definition for a market would simply be a group of buyers and sellers of a particular good or service. Now that's the more economics definition right there, because for example, let's say that you want to buy a pair of shoes. Then you are in the market for a pair of shoes. So that is why you are part of that market. So a market is a group of buyers and sellers of a particular good or service. That's the next definition for it. So it can either be any situation that brings a buyer and seller into contact, or a group of buyers and sellers of a particular good or service. Again, you're a student, so therefore you're in the market for, let's say, textbooks. So you are part of the textbook market. You are a buyer, and the store is going to be the seller for textbooks. So let's say again, clothing. If you want to buy a pair of Levi jeans, then you are in the market for Levi jeans, and the supplier would be the person selling. So all of y'all together would be all those who want jeans. They would combine to make up the market for jeans. All those who want to buy a pair of, let's say, Jordans, then they are in the market for a pair of Jordans, so they are the market for Jordans. So those are the two definitions you can use for defining what a market is. Alright, so that's basically it for what a market is. Like I said, I did a video before. You can look back on that one. So again, objective number 2 now. Identify the market forces, and I said that from the top. The market forces are supply and demand. Supply and demand are what we call the market forces. They are the ones who, supply and demands are the ones who interact to make the prices go higher or lower or whatever. They are the ones who control the market, especially in what you call a free market. The market forces control prices, especially in the free market. But if you're dealing with, let's say, a North Korea or some other authoritarian system, then the government would be one controlling the market. But in the capitalist, in the free market, the market forces of supply and demand are the ones who control all the interactions in the market. Another name for them would be the invisible hand. So if you all are familiar with Adam Smith, he defined supply and demand as the invisible hands that move the market, that interact to dictate how the market should go. So let's look at it here again. Supply and demand are two words that economists most often use. Supply and demand are forces that make market economies work. So here they are the forces of supply and demand. Those are the market forces. Supply and demand are the two forces that interact, that determines things like prices and supply and demand and those kind of things. So that's basically it for objective 2. Identify the market forces, and the market forces are supply and demand. So let's go a little further. Remember I said that there are different market structures. Alright, and as such, the different economies. So I mentioned the subsistence, the traditional, the mixed, and also the authoritarian or the planned. Now the market is what is basically in control of the free market or the capitalist system, and to a certain extent the mixed economy. The market, supply and demand, are the ones that interact to dictate how the market should or should not go. So the first one, we're going to break it down into demand and supply. So we're going to break down the market forces into demand and supply. But let's just jump to the textbook and see what the textbook has so far. So in the textbook, market forces are right here. A market is any mechanism that facilitates the interaction of buyers and sellers with a view to purchase and sale of goods or services. So that's a more mouthful kind of definition. All right. A market can be an actual physical location, such as a supermarket, a vegetable market, a gas station, or even shops as a mall. However, with the development of e-commerce, a market does not have to be physical location. Like I said before, it's not only a physical location. You would not get the definition right if you say it's a physical location. That's not the only thing that's a market. A buyer on his computer in Jamaica using his credit card to purchase skincare products from a seller in the US is operating in a market. So all those are examples of a market again. So let's look at the market forces as they have them outlined here. Market forces, you have your supply and you have your demand. So the market forces, you have your market consists of potential buyer, a seller, and a product or service. In the market, buyers demand a good or service. So the definition of demand here is the desire and willingness to buy a product backed by the ability to pay for goods or service. Now that's a kind of mouthful definition again. So let's just look at demand separately and then we'll come back and work on the definitions. All right. So let's go. Where we at in the syllabus? Here we at. So use diagrams to describe the relationship between price and demand and price and supply. So that's what we're going to jump in from right now. So let's kick off with demand. What is demand? What exactly is demand? So quantity demanded is the amount of goods of a good that buyers are willing and able to purchase. Now this is a key part right here. Able to purchase. So quantity demanded is the amount of a good that buyers are willing and able to purchase, because the reality is this: you might be willing to buy a Lamborghini, you might be willing to buy a Ferrari, you might be willing to buy some Gucci, some Louis Vuitton or something, but are you able to buy it? If you're not able to buy it, then you're not a part of the demand for that product. You're not in the market for that product. So quantity demanded is the amount of goods that buyers are willing and able to purchase. That's it. Willing and able. If you're unable to purchase that product, too expensive or for whatever reason, then you're not a part of the quantity demanded. So the sellers are not even going to consider you. The producers are not even going to consider you because you're not in that market, because you can't afford to purchase these things. So that's the quantity demanded. Now, demand has certain laws attached to it. And when you break it down, they're really common sense laws. So the law of demand states that, other things being equal, the quantity demanded of a good falls when the price of goods rises. Now keep this in mind for later. Other things equal. Other things equal. Now that means that if everything stays the same, then the quantity demanded of a good falls when the price of the good rises. Now another way you might see this, other things equal, is with the Latin phrase ceteris paribus. So let's just go there and come back. Alright, so right here in the syllabus, it comes after this explain the concept of ceteris paribus. The concept of ceteris paribus is simply means all things remaining unchanged or things remaining the same. Nothing changes. That's the concept of ceteris paribus. And it is used to illustrate the effects of price on demand and supply. So you want to hold things a certain way, because the reality is the economy is not static, it's dynamic. Things change all the time. So to get you to understand how demand and supply works, you have to use certain assumptions. And one of those assumptions would be the concept of ceteris paribus, where all things remaining equal. They don't change. All things remaining equal. Here in the textbook you have it. Ceteris paribus is a Latin phrase meaning other things remaining constant, or if nothing else changes. So you have to always keep that in mind when you are thinking about supply and demand, and also the concepts of the law of supply and the law of demand. The idea of ceteris paribus, meaning all things remaining equal, or all things remaining constant, or all things remaining the same, or nothing changes. So with that out of the way, let's go back to what we were discussing. So we're back here again. We're going to start again looking at demand. Now that we have ceteris paribus, or other things equal, out the way. So let's go again from the top. Quantity demanded is the amount of a good that buyers are willing and able to purchase, and that is the law of, and that is quantity demanded. Alright, now the law of demand. What is the law of demand? The law of demand states that other things equal, or you can always put in ceteris paribus there, the quantity demanded of goods fall when the price of the goods rises. Now what does this mean? Let's think about it logically. Now if you're in the market for some shoes and you go to Palace to buy some shoes, Palace tend to have what you call BOGO, buy one get one off. So what are you going to do? Are you going to buy the same one pair of shoes? Are you? More than likely, no. You're actually going to buy one and maybe a next one to get the half price, because it's now cheaper. So they say when the price of the good rises, the demand would fall. So that's the flip side. That's where if the price of the good falls, the demand would rise. So it works both ways. Alright, so your book would have both definitions, both ways, but it's all the same thing. So our next example, what if you normally buy, let's say, 10 pounds of sugar per week, but then all of a sudden the cost of sugar gone up by maybe $2. Then you very well might not buy the same 10 pounds, you'll buy less because the cost gone up. So therefore you're going to demand less pounds of sugar now. So you might end up buying 5 pounds of sugar because the price gone up. Same way, if you are accustomed to go to KFC to buy a 2-piece and fries, and the price of the 2-piece and fries gone up by $5. Now all of a sudden you might not have enough money, so you might end up buying maybe a 1-piece, right? So that's how the law of demand works. When the price is low, you buy more because it's cheaper now, so you buy more, you demand more. When the price is higher, you might say, but this is too expensive, so you end up buying less. And that is the law of demand right there, both sides of it. If you're looking, let's look at the market for phones. No, I know it's a weird, phones might be weird for some people might not care, but when you have 3 different SKUs or 3 different types of Galaxy 10 phones out right now. You have the Galaxy 10, the E, you have the 10 and the 10 Plus. Now, the demand would be higher for which one? Of the 3, the demand would be higher for the E, the cheaper version. That's just how it works. The demand will be higher for the cheaper version. But let's say the price for the Plus goes down to around less than the E. Of course, you can buy the E, the Plus, because it's now cheaper. So you buy more. You buy the more expensive one, no, the one's more expensive one. Alright, and next example again. Let's say that you are accustomed to go to the movies, let's say, twice per week at $10 per ticket. Now all of a sudden you go into the movies, they're telling you that the ticket double. So now ticket costs $20. How much movies are you gonna watch now? You're not gonna go to the same 2. You might very well demand less movies and just go to 1 per week. So that's we're just simply saying that as the price of something goes up, your demand for that thing should fall. That's the law of demand. Your demand will fall. It's just common sense. It's more expensive, you buy less. If the price goes down, common sense again, it's cheaper, you buy more. So that is a law of demand in a nutshell. Alright, so what is a demand schedule? Now you have this thing called a demand schedule. A demand schedule is a table that shows the relationship between price of the good and the quantity demanded. So keep this in mind. Demand is all about the relationship between price and the amount demand. So that's what we're looking at here, the relationship between price and the quantity demanded. As we say, if the price goes up, your quantity demand goes down. If the price goes down, your quantity demanded goes up. So they have what you call an inverse relationship. When one goes down, the other one goes up. So when price go up, demand goes down. When price go down, demand goes up. So they have an inverse relationship, opposite. So the demand schedule just simply a table that shows the different price levels and the amount demanded at each price level. So let's look at this one they have here. Catherine's demand schedule. You have a price of ice cream cone, the quantity of cones demanded. Now let's look at this here. Let's break down this table here, this schedule here. So at $0, they're saying that ice cream free. So when ice cream free, what do? You go and you take 12. Ice cream free, take 12. You know, no money, it costs you nothing. You see the truck there, they say ice cream free, run down, grab 12, that's good to go. So ice cream free, take 12. But then the ice cream man said, no man, I can't just give me ice cream just like that. Let me charge 50 cents per cone. So 50 cents per cone, you say, okay, 50 cents, okay, cost me a little bit, but I want 10 still. That's a lot still. 10, 50 cents, give me 10. Still cheap. It is still cheap. 50 cents not gonna break the bank. So at 50 cents, you buy 10. Then the price start going up. $1. You say, buy $1. Getting a little steep, you know. But you know what, it's still cheap. I'm gonna buy 8. Then you go back next day, ice cream man say $3 for ice cream. $3 for an ice cream cone. I stop playing with y'all. $3 for ice cream cone. What would you do as a consumer? Well, based on this schedule, you're gonna demand 0. You tell ice cream man, hey, your ice cream too expensive. I ain't want none. You keep your ice cream, you go so with that. I ain't want ice cream. $3, way too rich for my blood, way too rich for my pocket. So at $3, your demand for ice cream is 0. Ice cream man is too expensive, so therefore it's 0. So this is the demand schedule, and as you realize, the law of demand is being depicted here. As the price increase from 0 all the way up, so the demand, the quantity demanded actually falls. So it started at 12, price go up, then 10, price go up, 8, price go up, 6, price goes up, 4, price goes up, 2, price gone sky high, 0. So you see the law of demand coming into play right here for the ice cream cones. Now let's look at the big bad curve now. The demand curve. What is the demand curve? Again, where the schedule was a table showing the relationship between price and quantity demanded, the curve now is a graph, is a graphical representation that shows the relationship between price and quantity demanded. So a demand curve is a graph of the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity demanded. That's the demand curve. And how does it look? Don't let the word curve fool you. It actually can be a straight line, but normally it's curved. So here's the demand curve. Again, we're using the schedule from before. To get this curve in order. So here we go. Let's start back again. So remember we said at $3, how many you demand? At 3, you come down, your demand is 0. So at $3, your demand is 0. Then the price coming down a bit. At $2.50, your demand start moving, so you demand 2. At $2, your demand goes up, whereas the price came down. Price come down to $1.50. Things getting cheaper now. We're getting cheaper. So your demand rises to 6. At $1, your demand rises to 8. At 50 cents, you want 10. And at 0, when it is free, when ice cream cone free, you demand 12. And so you plot all of these, and that is how you derive your demand curve. All right, that's how you derive a demand curve, and this is depicting the law of demand in effect. So as the price decreases, your demand, your quantity demand for cones rises. You see, it goes up. Price coming down, your amount goes up, your demand goes up. And so there's a negative relationship between these two. Alright, it's a negative. When one goes down, the other one goes up, negative. So therefore, this curve is negatively sloped. Alright, it's a negatively sloping curve because of the relationship between price and quantity demanded is negative. So that's a quick rundown of the demand curve. But we're gonna continue along this line. Alright, so look at the diagram, drawing it again. These can be kind of tricky for some people to draw, but they're very simple. So normally, when you have your test, your exam, you don't really want to put in figures per se. It's not really drawn to scale. So you just draw the axis and just draw the curve, and then you plug in the numbers to match the curve. It ain't really that big of a deal. You don't have to go with the ruler and be all careful and nah. You just draw the X, draw the Y, draw the curve, and then plug in the rest stuff. Alright, so we're continuing. Now, you have what you call the market demand versus individual demand. The market demand versus the individual demand. What is the market demand? Remember I said earlier that if you want a pair of shoes, then you are in the market for shoes. That is your individual demand for shoes. But if everybody who wants shoes and are in the market for shoes, when you combine them and add them together, when you sum them all up, they make up the market demand for shoes. That's just how it is. So market demand refers to the sum of all individual demand for a particular good or service. So if I want an iPhone by myself, that's my demand curve. I want iPhone 10, that's my demand curve for iPhone. But for everybody who wants, so let's say everybody in Jamaica wanted an iPhone 11. Then even children, baby, everybody. Then the population of Jamaica is 2.7 million or something like that. So that would be the market demand for that. But that's a little extreme, but I'm just showing you that the market demand is a summation of all the individual demand curves for a certain product. Graphically, individual demand curves are summed horizontally to obtain the market demand curve. But we're not gonna go too much into that. What we're gonna look at now is what caused a change in the quantity demanded and how it is depicted. So you have two changes that can occur as it relates to a demand curve. You have what you call a movement along the curve, and you have what you call a total shift in the curve. You can shift either left or right. So let's look at a movement first. What is a movement and what causes a movement? Now, a movement along the demand curve is only caused by the price of the product. The price of the product is what causes a movement along the demand curve. Nothing else, just the price of that product. So let's look at it graphically. So again, you have your ice cream cones, you have your quantity demanded of ice cream. So here you have $1 for the ice cream, and at $1 you're going to demand 8 cones. It costs $1, you demand 8. That's point A. This is the same demand curve, point A. So D represents your demand curve. Now, a tax that raises the price of ice cream cones result in a movement along the demand curve. Remember we said that if the price goes up, you are going to what? You are going to demand less. So the government said, okay, we're going to put some VAT or some tax on ice cream. That means that the cost of ice cream goes up. So what do you think happened to the demand? So the cost moved from $1 to $2. So what do you think happened to the demand of ice cream? As the law of demand states, as the price goes up, your demand goes down. So what happens? There's a movement along the same curve from 8 down to 4, and that brings us to point B. You see that? Point B is the curve. There was a movement from A to B when the price moved from $1 to $2. That caused the quantity demanded to drop from 8 cones down to 4, because the law of demand states that as the price goes up, your quantity demanded falls. So this is what we call a movement along the curve, the same curve, and only the price can cause that. Now the reverse would have been true. Had it been 2 and then it goes down to 1, then you would have moved from B back to A, and from 4 to 8. So now that's the movement along. So we said that the movement is only caused by the price. Now, as I said before, there's a movement and then there's a total shift of the curve. That as in the curve move from here, go out here, or come in here. Let me just show you the shift before we jump into what causes the shift. This is considered a shift in the demand curve, a total shift. So there's a change at every single price level. At every single price level, there's a change in quantity demanded at every price level. So the entire curve will move either right, indicating an increase in demand, or left, indicating a decrease in demand. So what causes the curve to move so drastically from the center to left or right? Let's look at a few. The book has a lot, but let's look at a few. You have 2, 4, 5 right there. Consumer income, the prices of related goods, taste, expectation, and the number of buyers. So let's break down how each of them can cause a shift, a total shift in the demand. Quantity demanded. First and foremost, consumer income. Now this is very commonsensical. How much money you have, how much you earn. Now the reality is, if you're broke, you can't afford much of anything. So if you're broke, your demand for certain things would fall, would go down, because you just don't have any money, right? If you're working for 5,000 a month, and then all of a sudden boss said, hey, things hard, you have to cut back on the hours. So now you're working for half that, 2,000 a month. Things that you used to demand before are going to fall. So if you used to buy, let's say, if you used to go to movies 3 times a week, you broke now, you might cut back to 1. If you used to buy your Starbucks or your juicy patty on your way to work or whatever, now that you get less money, your demand for those things would fall, will decline, would fall, because your income has fallen. The reverse is true. If you get a raise at your job, if you come into a lot of cash, you have more money, your demand for certain things will rise. All of a sudden, your demand for, a luxury car might increase because you could afford it now. Your demand for more clothes goes up because you can afford it now. Your demand for more, luxury stuff goes up because you can afford it now. So that's how your income affects your demand. It is very straightforward. The lower your income, the less your demand. The higher, the more you demand for certain things. So that's how your income affects your demand. You're earning more, you tend to demand more things. You're earning less, you tend to demand less things. The price of related goods. The price of related goods. So how does this work? The price of related goods. Now, what if you, like, for example, let's say 2 things that goes well together. You have, let's say, milk and cornflakes. Milk and cornflakes. Now, if the price of cornflakes goes sky high, then your demand for milk might just fall, because you only used to buy the milk to go with the cornflakes. So your demand for milk will fall, because the ice cream, the milk and the cornflakes are somewhat related. The reverse, if the cost of milk goes up, you might say, I am buying the ice cream because I couldn't only afford to buy. I'm not buying any cereal, any cornflakes, because the milk's so expensive. I need the milk to make me tea, and I can't afford no more to make cornflakes. So your demand for cornflakes would fall if the cost of milk goes too high. All right. So that's how it works here. Related goods. Now we can go further into the weeds and talk about substitutes and substitute goods and complementary goods. Like, for example, if you have Coke and Pepsi. That's a classic example. Coke and Pepsi. Coke and Pepsi is a classic example. Now, because the taste is so similar, the taste profile are so similar, if the price of Coke goes up, then your demand for Coke should fall and your demand for Pepsi should rise, because they are so similar that it doesn't make sense to spend extra money on the Coke when you can get the same feeling from the Pepsi, and vice versa. Let's go to the next example. Butter and margarine. Butter and margarine are so similar. They do so similar things. Yes, one is plant-based, one is animal-based, but they do basically the same thing. You fry with them, spread them in the bread, etc. Now, if they were the same price, then you might go based on what you like. But what if the cost of butter goes sky high? Your demand for butter should, as a law of demand states, would fall, whereas the demand for margarine, which is a similar product, would rise. because you know they can do the same thing. So therefore, it don't make sense to buy the expensive butter when you can get the same effect we're using the margarine. So that's how price of related goods would affect your demand. Taste. Now, taste doesn't simply talk about what you consume, what you eat. You can talk about personal taste, fashion choices, those kind of things. Now, let's look at it here. Taste. Maybe this month you might be enjoying, you know, some KFC. You know, you're enjoying a KFC. But next month you say, I fed up a KFC. I can't stand KFC. I want some Domino's, some pizza. So all of a sudden, your taste change from chicken to pizza. So your demand for chicken goes down and your demand for pizza goes up. Let's look at clothing. You know, rip up jeans or distressed jeans were the rage the other day. You know? But some people might say, okay, that's out of fashion. That ain't really trendy right now. So what happens to your demand for torn up jeans? That goes down and your demand for whatever is the latest style goes up. And that's how taste works. It's about your personal taste, what you like. So if you like something, you demand more. If you don't like it, you demand less. Then you have expectations. Now, if we're talking about future now, we're thinking about ahead. Now, let's say, for example, you think that a hurricane might come. What do? You go out and you stock up on certain things. So your demand for, let's say, canned goods, your tuna, your sardine, whatever, macaroni, your demand for those things will go up in the short term because your expectation is that hurricane will come and you want to stock up. So your demand for that goes up. The reverse is true. If you expect that the weather might be very hot or whatever, or very good, then your demand for certain things, certain clothing, might decrease. Like if you need a jacket for cold weather, but if you know that the place is going to be warm, your demand for jackets might just go down because you have no use for them. So that's how expectation can work. Number of buyers, this one is very clear. Number of buyers is very literal. If the population of a country goes up, or the amount of buyers goes up, then naturally the demand for certain things would increase because the number of buyers gone up. More people are there, so therefore demand, when you combine all those individual demand curves, your demand should go up. Same way, if the population starts falling, people leaving, brain drain, then the demand for certain things would fall because the numbers just aren't there anymore. The numbers just aren't there, so the demand would fall. So all these things will lead to a shift in the demand curve. A shift in the demand curve is either to the left or the right, caused by any change that alters the quantity demanded at every price level, and these are what we're talking about here. So let's look at it again. When there's a shift from the middle to the left, then that's a decrease in demand. When there's a shift from the middle to the right, that's an increase in demand. So you can plug in any of those things we discussed just now. Let's say income. So this was your normal income in the middle. So that's your demand based on your current income level. Now what if you lose your job? So your income drop. Your demand is going to shift to the left because your income has fallen. But if your income goes up, your demand would shift to the right because you have more money now, so you can afford more things, so your demand would shift. Same thing, let's say this in the middle is your demand for chicken because you're loving chicken right now, but your taste for chicken, you know, kind of fall off. You're demanding more beef, so your demand for chicken would shift to the left, as in it drops, and the demand for beef would shift to the right, as in it goes up. Alright, so those are, you can plug in any of those. So let's look at the textbook and see what they say about these here, the shifts. Alright, well, the factors that affect the determinants of demand. Remember we said the price is a cause of movement, but the price is a determinant of demand. The price can affect your demand, changes your demand. The price of the good itself. The price of the good is considered to be the first condition of demand. As we have seen above, as price increases, quantity demanded falls, and as price decreases, quantity demand rises. So this is a law of demand right here, and it is in relation to the price versus quantity demand. So of course, the price is the first determinant of demand. If it's too high, you're not going to buy it. If it's too low, you're going to buy more. So price. Then, as we discussed earlier, change in the number of buyers, or I can say the change in the population, Increase in the population cause demand to increase. Decrease in the population cause demand to fall. As simple as that. Change in income. Increase in income cause demand to rise, and decrease in income cause demand to fall. Taste and fashion. As we discussed earlier, a change in taste or fashion in favor of a good will cause demand for that good to increase. When the taste and fashion move away from a product, demand will fall. Then we looked at the seasonal factor or expectation. Seasons and times of the year will cause demand to change. In the rainy season, the demand for umbrellas increases. At Christmas time, there is an increase in demand for toys, paint, and curtains to nice up your house and stuff. And then you have the price of other goods. As we looked at two sides of it. Look here, they use the butter and margarine. All right, if the price increase in butter, the demand for margarine will rise, even though all conditions of margarine in the market remain unchanged. So that's ceteris paribus coming into thing right there. All right, so these are all in the textbook. Other determinants of demand, they have some other ones here in addition to what we discussed earlier. We looked at advertising. An increase in advertising cause an increase in demand, and decrease in advertising cause a fall in demand. So this is especially for business places. And let's look at a movie, for example. If you're not hearing about the movie, there are no trailers, nobody really hyping up the movie, no marketing on the movie, then your demand for that movie would fall, right? You don't know the movie, you're not hype, your demand fall. But if you're getting bombarded with ads all the time, trailers and advertising, like this movie is the best thing ever, then of course you're gonna be like, man, I really want to see this movie, so therefore your demand would go up for that movie. Now the next one here, rates of interest on consumer credit. It's a little more in-depth, right? So the rate of interest on consumer credit, when interest rates on loans to buy consumer goods are low, demand increases. If interest rates rise, demand decreases. What does this mean? What this is saying is that certain times the bank can raise or decrease the level of interest rate. Now the interest rate is how much you have to pay back when you borrow the money. For example, if you borrow 10,000, the bank might tell you have to pay back just 15,000. That might be good, that might be bad for some people. But if you compare that to when the bank say, okay, if you borrow 10,000, you have zero interest to pay back. So you borrow 10,000, you pay back 10,000. Of course, you're gonna go and borrow more, and therefore you're gonna have more money to demand more things within the economy, because all of a sudden you came into more money than you thought possible. So therefore your demand would go up for various things within the economy. The flip side is that if the interest rate goes too high, then you're going to be reluctant to borrow, and you'll be like, okay, no, it's too expensive, I am borrowing the money. So therefore you're not going to have an injection of cash. So your demand for certain things would fall or remain low. All right. And the last one we're going to be looking at from the textbook is expectations of future price changes. If consumers expect that the price of a product will increase in the near future, demand demand increases in the present. Similarly, if they expect prices to fall soon, consumers might choose not to buy now, demand falls, and wait for the price to fall. So this is like people waiting for sales. So like if you know, okay, a sale coming, like for example, if you are in the market for a computer and you see it's November the 1st, your first thought would be, or let's say a television, your first thought would be, okay, I know when Black Friday roll around, the cost of this TV is going to fall. So therefore, my demand for TV for now would fall. I am buying a TV no time soon. I want a TV right now because I know in a few weeks the price would fall, and then is when my demand for TV would rise. So that's expectation of future prices. And the flip side is true. If you know that in the future, let's say you on Black Friday, you see the price of certain things, rock bottom, and you know that, hey, I need to catch this now because I know in a few months, a few weeks, a few days, the price going right back up. What you gonna do? You're gonna demand more right there because the price nice and low, because in a few days price going back sky high, and so therefore I gotta get it now when the price is low. So that's what they're talking about here when they say expectation of future price changes. So in a nutshell, all of that is is demand. That's demand in a nutshell. Alright, so I think we would have exhausted the law of the demand right here, and so we are going to pause here, look at it one more time before we jump into supply. So let's look at it again. What influence what are the determinants of demand? Here you have price. So the price is the first one, and the price represents the movement along the curve. If the price goes up, your demand goes down. If the price goes down, your demand goes up. Then you have income. The income causes a shift in your quantity demanded. If your income rise, then your demand would shift to the right, saying that you demand more things. If your income falls, you get fired, your demand curve would shift to the left, indicating your demand has fallen. The price of related goods. If the price of similar goods, substitute goods, if the price of one goes up, then your demand for that one would fall, whereas the demand for the cheaper one would rise. And that would cause various shifts in the curve based on which one you're looking at. So let's say butter and margarine. If the price of margarine goes up, your demand for butter goes up. So there will be a shift for your demand for butter to the right, and there will be a shift for your demand for margarine to the left, indicating you want less margarine now and more butter. Taste and fashion. If you don't like something anymore, your demand for that thing would fall, and your demand for the new thing, the new fancy thing, goes up. So that would cause a shift in to the left for that product that you don't like anymore, and a shift to the right for that product, the demand for that product you like now. Expectations, we discussed that already. If the price, you're expecting the price to fall in the future, your demand now would go down and go up in the future, and the reverse is true. Number of buyers, a clear one. If the population increases, the demand increases. If the population falls, the demand falls. So that is demand in a nutshell. Alright, so we're gonna study it for now, and we are going to jump back in at supply in another video. So let's look at what we covered so far based on the syllabus. In this video, we would have covered the term market. So that's objective 1. We covered objective 2, identify the forces of market, supply and demand. And we look at the conditions, the non-price factors such as income and those things. And we also use diagrams to describe the relationship between price and demand for now, just demand. We also look at the laws of supply and demand, and we also looked at the concept of ceteris paribus. So the next video we are going to look at supply, and then we are going to marry them together and look at market equilibrium where supply and demand intersects. Alright, so that's it for now. You know what to do. You hit the notification bell. You of course like the video, subscribe of course. Alright, subscribe to the video because more are on their way. Alright, so subscribe, like, share the video. I know you have friends, you have classmates, tell them about it, WhatsApp them the link, share the video, share the channel, help it to grow so that we can be incentivized to continue making more content. Alright, so that's it for now. Get prepared for the next one.